Hello and welcome to our very short video giving you some helpful tips on completing the Apple Baseline Assessment. I'm Susie Bruce. I'm director of the Apple Training Institute.
I'm Holly Deering and I'm the associate director.
And we're excited for you to be coming to Apple. And this gives you just hopefully some quick tips on how to be really effective and efficient with your time in filling out the required baseline assessment. So here we go. So here's some helpful tips.
Right, so we know that usually when you go to a conference, you don't have to do homework beforehand. But again, we are the Training Institute, so this starts to already show you how we're a little different. But the purpose, this is really at the heart of what we do and why coming to Apple is so effective and efficient, is that we have this really in-depth assessment. And this allows you to really understand how your department is meeting all of our 7 guiding principles and our 7 slices. And so this will be the baseline for what you're doing and all the conversations you're going to have from there. And so you can go online in addition to the actual document and really get to know our 7 slices and what make up the core of our Apple model, so to speak, and what our guiding principles are. And this will really shape your conversations, in particular during our 3-hour Saturday morning session, because we really break it down slice by slice. And so this assessment is due on Friday, August 27th, and you need to submit it online through the link we've given you. We do not accept emailed or faxed copies, but you only need 1 submission per campus. So Susie's going to talk about how you can share this information and really collaborate with other individuals, but we only need 1 submission per school. And you all as team contacts will receive, the information is kept confidential, and you'll get the information through our portal prior to coming to Apple, and you'll have many reminders about that. So at first it might seem a little daunting. This is a big assessment. And if you're doing it, but there are tips to make it better use of your time. So it is very comprehensive, and just filling it out online, even if you've completed everything in advance, is probably going to take you a good 30 minutes. So we really suggest that you print it out perhaps beforehand and have that already ready to go when you go to submit it online. You can also work on it online and save it and exit as long as you are continuing to use the same computer. But each of our sections follow the similar format. It all talks about the content of your policies and procedures, the way your policies and procedures are communicated, and then how they're evaluated, because this is ultimately what's really important in these areas. And if there's a written policy, you'll get an additional couple questions about how is it revised, when was it revised, and who monitors compliance with that. And we've tried really hard to keep the questions consistent and similar throughout. So you'll notice really similar questions throughout all of the sections, but it's all asking and getting at the same thing because we're looking for consistency. So now Susie's going to take you through a little bit of the actual survey. So you've already received the SurveyMonkey link, and Susie's going to take you through just a little section to take a look.
Okay, thanks, Holly. So you have that link and you have the attached PDF that is everything that you see here. So I'm just going to walk you through one of the slices of the Apple model to see kind of how to fill that out, just to be a little bit easier. So you'll see there's a drop-down box that has all of our schools. I've already filled mine out with UVA. And from there, as we mentioned, it's a similar process. We've really tried to streamline this assessment even more so this year to make it easier for you to fill out. So there's a couple of things you'll note for every one of the 7 slices. One is that cheerleaders, we know often are part of an athletics department. If you have cheerleaders and in any way they are supported, sponsored, whatever by your department, do include those in the questions that talk about so athletic training students or volunteers and student managers. Include them. But if for some reason the cheerleaders are not part of your department, then you can kind of ignore that. So that's just a note for all of this, all 7 sets of questions. So for each of the slices, you'll see the statement that is our guiding principle. And that's really the idea about what an ideal program is for each of these areas. So we're saying, based on lots of research and our experience, you should be doing these certain things. Now, no school is doing all of them. But what we're trying to help you find out is kind of having a checklist of what kind of things you're doing. So when you see this very first question for each slice, it is taking each of these statements here and turning them into questions. And then you'll be able, when you're at the Apple Training Institute, to see what are you doing, what are you not? And it really helps you plan your action plan, because you can start seeing, oh, these are things we should be working on and we're not. So for this first question always asks, do you have a written policy? And that might be within your department. It could potentially be with a campus-wide, but we're really trying to focus on athletic department policies. Is it something informal? You're like, well, we are doing that, but gosh, we can't find that written down anywhere. Or is it a neither or an NA? So for each of those, fill that out. Then the next question is always about, how are you educating various people in your department? Now, you might find something, you'll see there's always an other for everyone. So we're also looking to hear what are really creative things that schools are doing so that we can then share that back. So don't feel like you have to, but if you've got some really creative way of educating, you can put that in. The next question is always the strategies so actually in this one, you're going to have a couple of slices where we have some additional pieces. So for example, what are you doing to help student athletes prevent substance misuse by prospective student athletes? So there might be, this set of questions might be in some areas, some might be others. It kind of depends on what the topic is. This is the one that is going to happen in everyone. So this is looking at your assessment. How are you evaluating each of the different areas? And the responses are going to be similar, but not exactly the same every time, because it's going to vary by topic, but it's always an assessment evaluation question. And then the last question in each segment looks at your policy. So if you have a written policy that applies to the athletics department, you'd select this one. And we've got a new option here, which is there's a written policy, but it's campus-wide. There's not a specific additional athletics department. And then this last one is the policies aren't department-wide, they kind of vary by team. And then if you select yes for any of those three, then you will wind up seeing 3 more questions. They're really straightforward and they're exactly the same each time. When was it created or revised? Who was involved in writing or revising it? And what kind of compliance? Who's actually making sure those things are happening? So that just gives you an idea of what is happening in that survey. And I'm gonna hop us back out here. The one last piece I will mention is for policy. That sometimes is confusing because we ask policies in each slice, and we also have a policy slice. You'll see it in those questions that for policy, we're really focused on this policy that prohibits misuse of substances. So it's separate from recruiting policies or drug testing policies, or somebody who's maybe you identified a student athlete with a substance misuse issue and you need to refer them to counseling. Those are all separate. The policy slice is just that main policy that says maybe you have a 72-hour rule, those kinds of things. So that's what's happening in those slices. So a few tips for completing it accurately, because of course, the information we give back to you and your kind of score is going to be dependent on how you fill this out. And so many times we'll have teams look at their results and look at the survey and go, oh, wait, but that's not, oh, actually we do some of these things. So the more effort you can put in before you fill it out, it'll be much more valuable when you're at Apple. So as we mentioned, we've emailed you the PDF version of the survey. So try to gather all of those policies ahead of time, whether it's campus-wide or just within your department. And just make sure you're looking at all the different areas. Like, do you have a written value statement? And that can maybe include, even if it's not directly saying substance misuse, there might be values that are inconsistent with substance use. What do you have around drug testing? Do you have maybe a medical amnesty policy, campus-wide or just within your department? So gather all that information together, find out when they were created or updated, because you're going to have that for every single one. And then how are you communicating it to all the various people in your department? And how is that happening? And then how are you evaluating? So if you can start gathering that information, because it might take a while and it might be a lot of different people to kind of get the information from, that will help you be more accurate. So a few ideas that we have heard over many years of running Apple is don't wait till the last minute to fill this out, because it's a lot of work. But it's super valuable as you're trying to create your action plan, and makes your time at Apple much more valuable. So you could send the PDF to administrators. Make sure you give them some background though, because if they just say like, this is a lot of information, who are we sending this to? They might be a little more cautious. So remind them this is confidential. It's part of, the NCAA does not see anyone's results. The Apple Training Institute staff are the only ones who see it. And then we give you back your confidential data. So make sure they're aware that it's not going to be seen. The NCAA is not getting it. And then they can provide you with some of that information, so you don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. A couple of examples, your compliance officer is a great person to start with. They may be able to answer a lot of this information. And maybe around education, if you don't have a program specific run within the athletic department, who is providing education to your student athletes? Check with them. They might be able to help a lot with that education slice. And if you don't have policies, check with university-wide or campus-wide. Does your dean of students, do you have an office of judicial affairs? Who's kind of monitoring those policies that could apply to student athletes, just so you're being really as comprehensive as possible, because those campus-wide policies are certainly impacting your student athlete experience.
Just some of our last minute tips is just really don't stress about it. Like you're not necessarily, your grades aren't going to be shared. This is all confidential. And so it's just going to be seen by you and the Apple staff. And really, it's just a springboard for conversations and in areas to be like, hey, we're doing this really well, or to give you some ideas for ways to make things better or things you haven't even thought of before. And so no one ever does amazing. That's why, you just keep growing and being able to just share and get some really great ideas and focus on different slices from year to year. So as our final reminder, this is due August 27th. It's a Friday. And if you have any questions at any time, you can email us at appleathletics@virginia.edu. Thanks and good luck.
We will be excited to see you in September.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.